When it comes to addiction, you can't David Goggins it. You can't out cold plunge it. You can't red sauna it. There is nothing wrong with alcohol. These are beautiful things meant for us to enjoy. If you make them feel safe, they're gonna cough out what's really going on inside. You can talk about it so easily. Don't believe Instagram. Don't believe the reels. This guy's crushing and selling rehabs. Yeah, he's crushing and selling rehabs, but most of the people in those rehabs, they don't make it out.
So Adam, I had a preset first question, but now that I've met you, the first question is, why are you so fucking happy?
Well, that's a great question. That's the joy and the freedom that I found from being so dark in alcoholism and addiction and not seeing my way out of that, not thinking there was really a way out of that. Kind of like what you and I were rapping about, right? And it was like whack-a-mole. Like if it wasn't the pills, it was the drink. If it wasn't the drink, right? If it wasn't the drink, it was the money. If it wasn't the money, it was always seek escape. When you find that true north, you get that joy that you and I have right now. You know, you get. I mean, it's not like this every minute of every day. I'm human, but majority of time, this is the state I'm in.
How did you ever get to that low point? Is there anything that drove you into that? Was there anything in your personal life, or was it just where you lived, or did something specifically happen that you remember kind of pushed you into that?
Yeah. So it was based on major insecurities. When I grew up, I was the fat kid. I was the heavy kid, right? My dad used to call me El Chubbo.
It's hard to picture now. It's hard to picture now, but you're in great shape.
Well,
it's hard to picture
and
now.
That's what happens after you feel that for so many years, right? And there was a movie growing up when I'm a kid from the 80s, right? 80s, 90s. And there was a movie called The Goonies. And this kid was called Chunk, and he would do the Chunk Shuffle. And everybody would ask me to do the Chunk Shuffle. Stuff like that, like constant teasing.
That's so funny.
Constant teasing. And we moved from Jersey to Florida. And I just remember being like, just sick of how I looked, just sick of it. And my mom started buying me Muscle and Fitness and Flex Magazine and Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia. And I was like obsessed with bodybuilding, you know what I mean? And in 4 short years, I went from being the fattest kid in the class to the best built kid in the class. You know, I went from guys asking me, how many Oreos did you eat last night, to like, yo man, how much can you bench press? You know, and the girls liked me. Everything changed on the outside, but me, I was still kind of like that insecure.
What grade was that?
So I would say this really shifted in like, let's say freshman year.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, so middle school, the weight started to come off, but like the full transformation was
I have
like.
a very similar story, just a little younger. It was around like 12, so like a 6th or 7th grade, but very similar story.
So you get it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I wasn't fat, but I got picked on ruthlessly, so I started working out so I could defend myself.
Okay.
That was the whole reason I got into fitness.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. It stems from a pain.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So,
I didn't know why they were being. I remember going home and I was like, "What the fuck is his problem? Like, I didn't do shit, and they're just fucking with me." Like,
yeah.
I couldn't understand it. It just really perplexed me.
Yeah. So we figure out a way out.
Yeah,
right?
and I remember I would go home and my parents were religious. And my dad would say, pray about it. And I'm sure he had good intentions, but, I would go home and I was like, I'm praying a lot. This isn't doing shit. They're still beating the shit out of me.
Right.
So I finally started going to the gym early in the morning. My mom would take my sisters to Bible study, and then she dropped me off around like 6 a.m., 6:30 or whatever. And then she picked me up and take me to first period. And after 3 months, like, I started getting all these compliments. I was like, oh, shit. And so part of it, I think, really helped me be successful. But the other part was, it was massive insecurity to like, what's wrong with me? Well, I'm sure it stemmed from all those places because I wasn't doing anything. That's what just blew my mind. I was like, why are these kids fucking with me if I'm not doing anything?
Yeah.
Like literally not doing, just sitting by myself.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing I think I've ever seen with humans is I've never understood that.
Yeah. Children can be mean, bro.
Yeah.
Children can be mean.
Ruthless.
So I'm like, so now I go to be the fittest kid like you. Yeah. And you know how it is with the muscles and the coordination that comes in the muscles. Yeah. I'm able to like play with the older kids. And there was just something cooler about older kids.
Shit now.
Yeah. There was something cooler. Like they had cars, they had more freedom, they had the hottest chick, all that stuff. And dude, I just remember, I can't remember exactly, but I remember them passing a 40, passing the Coors Lights, passing a blunt, and I drank it and it fixed something inside of me I didn't know was broken, bro. It fixed it. And all of a sudden, and it wasn't ego, it was like Superman came out, but not cocky, just confident, right? And it was like, I was so disassociated from who I was. Like, I remember looking at my body being like, oh. And then I remember picking up on the girls' looks like, oh. And And I chased that the same way I chased fixing the body. So I never fixed the inside. You know, I went to Arizona State University because it was the #1 party school in Playboy and Penthouse magazine. That was why I went
What
to
was it?
Arizona State.
Oh yeah,
You
they
know what I
got the Devil's Den, right?
Yeah,
the Devil's
right?
Den.
So if you ask me why, I'm like, because it's the #1 party school in the and it became part of my identity. Yeah. It really became part of my identity. But you know, the world was also a little different. Like there was I wasn't on some spiritual journey trying to find myself. I was trying to get high. How can I keep this going? So it all stemmed from that insecurity. All of it. Can you believe that? Like all of it from being this fat kid turned me into, and look, and also it worked. Like you and I like things that work. Your system, we like things that work.
Right.
Alcohol and drugs work.
Yeah, very well.
It worked. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm a glutton for punishment. So I took it as far as I could take it.
That's when is that when your addiction started? Is it what age do you feel like you started getting addicted to alcohol? Was it alcohol?
It was alcohol and drugs, but I'm a full blown alcoholic for sure. But like, I would say I crossed that line from, let's say in the beginning, it's a bad habit. And then in that middle category, it's an unhealthy dependency.
Right.
Like I'll give you an example for me in an unhealthy dependency. Sure. I'm the kind of guy that if you and I buy supplements together, I'm your roommate. If I take that supplement for 10 days in a row, I am not going to leave the house on the 11th day until I take the supplement. I can grow a dependency on something like that. My mind just connects to it, right? So, but addiction is that mind, body, soul sick. This is like when it takes over. When your mind is obsessing about it, you can't stop thinking about it. Your body physically needs it. You're willing to do anything for it. You can lie to your parent. You can lie to anybody, not because you're a bad person. You don't want to hurt them, but you need your fix. So somewhere around 21 or 22, I went from having a really unhealthy dependency on this stuff to full-blown addict and alcoholic.
Do you think it's more genetic dispositions like with addiction, or do you think it's more like environment or friends? Like I'm curious on your take. Did you feel like it was more like a genetic thing where you're like, wow, like I like this a lot more than the average person, or was it more your environment, right? Because everyone has their weaknesses. For me, it's been interesting. I've always had a more proclivity to girls, like we were talking about, but I've never really had an issue with drugs or alcohol. Like, you know, if I drink I was like, yeah, it's great, but I've never like really felt like I have to do it. What was that like for you?
I definitely have the genetic disposition. And I definitely think your environment can push you towards it. But it's also, Tanner, it's that lack of awareness. It's that lack of, you know, when you're just willing to, because how could I prove? Was it my genetics? Was it my environment? Was it Arizona? Like all I could tell you was it was me. When it's you and you don't have the awareness of it, like thank God you're like, okay, I have the girl thing, but there's an awareness too. So if you feel like it's really popping up and out of control, you know it's time to do whatever practices you do to get it under control. I had no awareness. Yeah. I didn't care. How do I continue to make it work? It's kind of like you and I in business. It's like I need to make this work. I mean, this is my thing. This is what I do. This is who I am. It's part of my identity. How do I make it? How do I make it work? It's got to be. I got to change the liquor. I got to change the drug. There was no way out.
Did this carry across to girls as well, or is it only substances?
Well, for me, it was substances, and then. You know, the addictive mind is a son of a bitch, Tanner. You know, and women really, you know, I was healthy in that area. I never had a problem with it, but my obsessive compulsiveness could go to, it could even go to my body. Yeah. You know, it's whatever, whenever I'm not willing to look at something, I will double down on something that I'm strong at.
Like what? Give me an example.
Let's go. I'll go young Adam. I'll go current Adam.
Okay.
I don't want to look at some of the relationships and the situations I'm putting myself into. I don't want to look at it. It was a bad night. It was this and that. It was, you know what I mean? So what I will do is make sure that the next night's great. Like I will double or I will kick ass in the gym for 2 weeks. I will double down on my strengths rather than taking a look at what the hell is really going on.
Oh,
here.
I understand. So you kind of feel like you're doing something to avoid it or fix the problem.
100%. 100%. And I've done that currently, Tanner, even in business. Sometimes when something's not working, what I have done, and it's an old behavior, it's an old pattern, is I'll double down on one of my strengths rather than, okay, this isn't working. Let's really take a look at the cause. I will double down on one of my strengths, not realizing that there's really a lesson to be learned here.
So a question for you on that. Something that I think's made me successful in a sense is I actually say this to people. I say, I'm very good at ignoring my feelings. And what I mean by that is, if I don't feel like it or I'm tired or I'm just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, get the shit done. But kind of what you're saying right there, do you think, and I guess I could point to different things in my life. Do you think that's a weakness when it comes to stuff like this? Meaning, maybe someone has a problem and they're so used to just like, oh, it is what it is, whatever, kind of move on. And you feel like there's a different way for them to handle that?
100%. So I think well, first off, I like the idea of, your standards over your feelings, as in with your business. Right? I love the idea that if you were competing for Mr. Olympia and you didn't feel like you have to train that day, you're training that day.
Of course.
If you're playing with Michael and the Bulls, you're going to practice. It doesn't matter how you feel. We're going to continue doing that. I like that aspect. When that creature comes out and it's not looking at some destructive behavior, something that's happening over and over and over again, and like, I don't care about my feelings, I'm just going to do it again. That's when the pain really starts happening.
It's almost the opposite way, where you'd say like it's a destructive behavior, you're feeling bad from it, but you continue to do it anyways.
Yeah, like I actually think what you and I have, let me just speak for myself. I actually think that what I have, that alcoholism, that addiction, that compulsiveness, that obsessiveness, that it can be channeled into a superpower. No doubt about it. No, I know it for a fact. That's what I do with my clients. But when you allow it to manifest in areas that are unhealthy, and you want to keep doing that thing that you do with success, with getting the ring, with getting whatever it worked for you here, you have to understand that you can take that and now use it for, let's say, spiritual practices or some internal work because this doesn't work there. Whatever I do, I'm gonna ignore my feelings. I'm gonna muscle way through it. I'm gonna push through it. I'm gonna grind through it. That doesn't work when something's actually really destroying you.
When do you know when stuff's gone too far? So something, as an example, let's say a guy's a little bit of a womanizer, but he's always honest and he tells the truth, but he maybe, I don't know, like when would the line be he's doing it too much or you shouldn't be doing it at all? Like, do you have any type of framework for people where, like, some people drink, right? Is that bad to drink at all? Or is it like, here's where I have too much? Like, do you have any types of frameworks for where people can kind of decide if something's in a healthy or unhealthy balance?
Absolutely. And that's where the conversations take place. Do you know what I mean? That's why if I'm going to work with somebody one-on-one, I really screen them. Tanner, I don't, what I mean? Because it's not about right. It's really like, if we're going to do the work, let's just make sure that there's a real problem here. You know what I mean? And yeah, of course there's a way to understand, to get to the bottom of it, because there is nothing wrong with alcohol. There's nothing wrong with women. There's nothing, these are beautiful things. They're fantastic. They're meant for us to enjoy. But if you ask the right questions in a certain pattern and you start seeing the pattern, how many times it's affected the person and why is it even coming up, the answers will come out, and that person will literally, if you make them feel safe, not judged, safe, loved, they're going to cough out what's really going on inside, right? What's really going on. Because there is nothing wrong with women and there's nothing wrong with alcohol. There's something wrong with alcohol for an alcoholic.
Right.
There's something wrong with women if you can't control it. You know what I mean? There's something wrong with sugar for a diabetic. You and I can go have sugar. Look at us.
Yeah.
We're fine.
I do like some sugar.
I love some sugar, right? But if you and I were a team and we're working with somebody and I just can't stop. It's like, yeah, but look, the blood work, you're going to die or you're going to lose a limb if you don't stop.
What's the problems you're usually helping people work on? Is it more with substances? Is it women? Is it all of the above? Like what are you usually seeing as, maybe especially with men, like what are the biggest issues they're usually dealing with or facing?
It started, my career started purely with alcoholism and addiction. And as I kept growing and as I kept learning and as I kept getting sought out, what I started to understand was, the alcohol, the drugs, the women is a symptom. That's all a symptom. It's a symptom. What I'm really dealing with each person is the root cause. The root cause. Like, and to deal with it once and for all. Which goes back to the original question, why are you so happy?
Yeah, I wish people, when they're hearing this, they could see, but I meet a lot of people, and the second you walked in, you just have that aura about you, and it's not a negative way at all. It's like super positive, but it's almost where you're like, man, like what the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy so happy? But not in a bad way. It's just, it makes me even laugh. I'm like, man, maybe I got something wrong with me. Why is he so happy?
No,
right? It's a good
there's
thing,
nothing wrong. Yeah. But I like also admitting I think there are people that are this happy naturally, and God bless them. God bless them. You know what I mean? I had to go that far dark.
Yeah, to kind of learn how to do it.
I had to, I could talk about the alcoholism and addiction now so comfortably and so easy, and the people I've worked with, I could talk about it so easily. But when you really want me to relive it, or if you say, if I start imagining my kids going through, like Tanner, most people don't make it out. Don't believe Instagram. Don't believe the reels. Don't believe this guy's crushing and selling rehabs. You want to know what the bottom line is? Yeah, he's crushing and selling rehabs, but most of the people in those rehab, they don't live. They don't make it out.
Yeah, there's a movie. I can't remember what movie I saw about it, but it was actually, I forget the name of it right now, but they were actually paying people to keep going back to the rehab, and they were using, I think it was government funding.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie, but I remember sitting there going, and it was crazy because I can't remember in the movie if they were giving them drugs after or something, but the people would go back to the rehab because they'd pay them to do it. And so they get, like, let's say $20,000 a client, and they're like, hey, if you go back to rehab, we'll give you $5,000. Like, I was like, man, it's unethical. Like, I wouldn't do it.
It's a fucking sick business.
It's crazy.
So, listen, I've even had clients where, and I'm not, you got to understand, I'm coming from a no judgment place.
Yeah, of course.
Zero, because I've taken I've taken so much of whatever you want to talk about, and I'm open, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I've been there and I understand. But like, I've had clients before they met me, I can't even tell you how many ayahuasca trips they did, or they did the toad and they did the buff and they did whatever all these things were, all seeking to get what I found. Yeah. And they still didn't. They had a spiritual experience, no doubt about it. I loved hearing about it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a real spiritual awakening. So it's like you and I playing basketball, or you and I teaching people, right? You can throw up a prayer and make it. But the idea is to be able to do it over and over and over. I don't want a prayer. I have to go to ayahuasca. I gotta go do the toad. I want to be able to do it every single time. I've thrown up prayers before when I was the fat kid. They went in. Adam, do it again. This time the backboard's there. The ball went that way. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was a prayer. It was an absolute prayer. You can have spiritual experiences all day long. I love spiritual experiences. Who doesn't? It's a trip. But that awakening, that's when you and I can do it constant.
You've said it a few times, you found something. What is it that you found?
I was so curious, but again, I don't know how much you let out there, but I was really curious what faith your father and mother are. I don't know if that, I don't want to break any.
Oh, no, you're totally good. Yeah, I grew up LDS or Mormon, so super, super religious.
Perfect.
My dad was the equivalent of like a pastor. I mean, it's very, and sometimes you push the other direction.
Very pure, of course. Hello.
Is that what were you raised in?
I was raised Jewish, but my great grandfather was a really holy man that was really interesting, way ahead of his time. And I have Bibles and New Testaments of his, always connecting Jesus to the Old Testament. But this is not like today's world. Like you're talking about in the 20s and the 30s. I mean, some of the stuff it looked like he was doing was sacrilegious. Do you know what I mean? So, I could call myself a fulfilled Jew now, meaning I believe in the Torah. I believe in all the Jewish principles. I love them, but I do believe that there was a Messiah that came. You know what I mean? So what did I find? Seeking you shall find the peace that surpasses all understanding. I found that connection that in the greatest storms, I still feel safe, Tanner. I still feel like I feel good. I feel like I have a warm blanket over me. You can call that God. You can call that divine, invisible forces. You can call it universe. Everyone's spirituality is unique to them. You know what I mean? I love people in LDS because they're so pure. They're so pure.
It depends, like anything, but
Well, the people,
there's some good ones.
Yeah, there's some good ones.
There's some good ones, of
how's
course.
this? I bet you I'd love your parents.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the one thing I've always respected about my parents is I didn't always agree with them, but I always respected people that seem very certain,
right,
in the way they live. And I even have some friends who are like on the total other spectrum of life, but I really have found for me, I respect people who seem certain, and I think that's probably because that's something I want to have more of. And they'll just be the way they're living their life. They're like, this is the right way, and I'm like, but they're so sure, that I'm like, am I wrong?
Right.
And I think that's what I like about people is it's like that confidence that they know that the way they're doing stuff is the right way, and that's always very intriguing to me.
Yeah, I love that too. That peace that they found is what I found, and it's a feeling, it's a connection. It almost feels like you have a force field around you. It doesn't stop life from happening to you. It really doesn't. But you feel so certain. I never really use religious people. I'll usually use Jordan or Kobe or, do you know what I mean? Like Jordan, like he knew what he was doing was right. You know what I mean? He knew. And people that you and I have that as kids we have admired and looked up to, what were we really attracted to in them? We were attracted to that certainty. You know what I mean? Yeah, it could have been the shoe deal. Yeah, it could have been the millions. Yeah, it could have been this. Yeah, it could have been, but we were attracted to like, they know exactly what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And a lot of our heroes that let us down was when we found out they weren't who we thought they were.
Yeah.
And that's what I found. And that, my mission, my whole thing is to give whomever I'm working with access to that. And it's fun, but it's not a great game of addition. Like if you and I were working with a client and you're working with the client, because I love your stuff, and you would teach them how, right? Sometimes business is a game of addition. You have to add, you have to level up. In my game, it's a game of removal. We have to remove the blocks, remove the old stories, remove the, sometimes people really, really think blue is red.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And they're certain of it. And that, they call that insane. You know what I mean? They're willing to repeat the same behavior over and over. Either A, the cliche definition, expecting a different result, but real insanity is doing the same thing over and over, knowing exactly what the result's going to be.
Yeah.
That's real insanity. Hey, at least if you expected a different result, you had some good intentions. Yeah. But when you know what's going to happen and you still do it, okay. And that's what I found.
To me, what it sounds like is you help people find peace. I don't know if that's a good definition.
That's great.
Can you maybe walk us a little bit through how you actually help people and maybe what you do? And that, I don't know if that's super different for everyone, but I'm curious, maybe there's some things you could share that the listener could take to try to maybe implement. I don't know how complex that would be to try to describe.
Well, first off, I do treat every individual as an individual, right? So you and I both love bodybuilding. It started us, and you and I both train people. And the one thing we both know is we're not going to give somebody that's 6'5" and a little bit lanky Dorian Yates HIT workout. You know what I mean? And we're not going to give a marathon runner this type of workout. We're not going to take somebody that's built more like Arnold and have them train like Frank Zane. And you know what I mean? You have to at least meet the person where they're at and individualize it to them. But one is make a list of what you really want to feel and where you really want to be. And I don't want to do that as a daydream, and I don't want to use that as financial goals. And I want a real, authentic day in the life of how you're feeling throughout that whole day. You know what I mean? And I also want to know the causes and conditions now of why you're behaving and acting the way you act. I want the causes and the conditions. I don't want the behavior. I don't want you to sitting there beating yourself up the entire time. I mean, I want to know what's really going on inside. Where do you think this comes from? So we go through causes and conditions. We'll make a mission statement and purpose. We have owning our childhood and our past, for good or for bad. We both had good parents. Some people have fucking terrible parents, but we need to use that for the good. We need to use that for good. Of course, we're going to implement some fun shit that everybody loves, finding their own meditation practice, what journaling really looks like for them, how we're going to treat the physical body, all the stuff that anybody really can teach you. But we're going to put it all in one system where if it's steps of recovery, personal development, biblical, ancient wisdom, bodybuilding and physical lessons, we're going to put it all into one system and use it exactly when you need to use it. Using the right tool at the right time, right? There's no point when you and I need a hammer for him to give us a wrench.
Yeah. Is the main thing that you're trying to do is get them to change their perspective on how they see things? Is that
That's
safe
a
to
key.
say?
That's one of the huge moments is a perception shift.
It's interesting. So for me, I was never really big into mindset. I guess you call it mindset. Until maybe 2 years ago. And I think one of the reasons for me was, I guess a lot of times I would see maybe someone who would be a proponent of mindset, but I wouldn't respect them. Like I wouldn't think, oh, I want to be like them. I'd be like, I don't want to be like you at all. And so I wouldn't think it would be helpful. And maybe it was just because I was looking at the wrong people. But as I started having, I'd say, more problems in my personal life, one of the things that I thought was super interesting was with the mindset trains I got from higher level people was it just seemed a lot of what we focused on was just changing how we viewed stuff and realizing a lot of the things that was happening to me was really my fault. And something that we did, we created something, he called it a declaration. It was my coach at the time. And it seemed so stupid that I didn't really think it would work. He essentially just had me write out everything I hated about myself or other people, right? At the time, it was a pretty long list. And then I said all the opposite things. And something very simple that was super effective was I started saying it morning and night. And some people call it declarations, which this felt different to me. It was like I called it my document. And what I noticed is, I was like, oh, this is kind of stupid. Like, why am I doing this shit? But as I did it, what I noticed is when I got in tough situations, those thoughts, the things I said subconsciously started to like get imprinted in my brain. It felt that way. And then it would consciously come into my mind in those tough moments and I'd react differently.
Yeah.
That was very interesting to me because in that moment, at least for me, I grew up pretty religious, but I fell away from it a lot. And I think a lot of it was because I grew up very rule-based. Do this, do this, do this. If you do this, you're good. If you don't do this, you're going to hell. And, a lot of stuff happened that we could delve into later. But what was interesting is when that happened, it was kind of a twofold thought. One was, wow, that's amazing that just by doing that, it's not necessarily you feel different in that moment, but you react differently. And that gets you the outcome you want. Because something that always, pissed me off, he's like, well, you got to change how you act. I'm like, yeah, but like if I'm pissed in the moment, what do you want me to do? Right? And he's like, well, you have to think of it beforehand. And that really helped me. But then the second thought, if we're all powerful to be able to change our reality by changing our thoughts, you can almost believe anything you want. Like you can even make yourself believe the wrong thing if that's what you want.
Yep.
And so for me, I've been getting much more introspective where I really am trying to see, is what I'm saying or what I want, is that the right thing for me to want? Because I know, it's almost that I know I can create that, but is it the right thing? And that's been a very interesting thing for me to go down, especially if you're not pulling on a certain religion. Because if you have a certain religion, it kind of like, I think, steers it.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's been very intriguing to me in terms of mindset. And it was probably the first time in my entire life where I was actually interested in it because it felt the most godlike to anything I've learned about. Because they talk about like, you're creating God's image. And to me, I was like, yeah, whatever, fuck all this stuff. And that was the first time someone's like, you can create your reality by doing this. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But as I started doing it, I was like, oh, because I got in tough situations and those thoughts came to my head and I reacted differently. That to me has been very powerful.
But
And
you were open to, like, that's the part that so many people don't give themselves the love and the respect for. You were open. Do you know
I got to a low point. I think I got to a point.
how easy it is for you, the way you look, financially healthy, all your dreams coming true? Do you know how easy it is? Because I know the old Adam to be like, what the fuck could you tell me? You want me to write a declaration? You want me to write that? I'll write whatever the fuck you want. I'll write like because that guy comes out. That guy that I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work for me. That all that stuff. But the fact that you were open and tried, that's the path.
You know, to be the devil's advocate of that, the gentleman that I was getting help from was getting paid. I think he had 600 clients who paid him about $200,000 a piece, and X amount kept signing up. So you know, he's generated probably like a crazy number, 200 million or something crazy, just by doing that. Just by he sits there with you for 2 hours and talks to you. But so I think that's one of the reasons I did listen, because I was like, I mean, this guy must know something if people are willing to pay him this kind of money. That was like impressive to me, coming from my business acumen and background. But I think I was a little surprised how simple it was. And not meaning that there's still difficult things. I think there's some things in life that can still be challenging, but to realize that all the power is kind of within you, and realizing that you have a lot more control than you think, and it's not really about other people. In fact, something that's been helpful for me is realizing that a lot of times people are a reflection of me. Right.
Yep.
And then for example, at the time I was complaining about my girlfriend, and he's like, yeah, just write all the worst things you can think of. I was like, I mean, but I love her. Like, but just write the worst things you can think. And what's been interesting is, as you know, a lot of those things I realized stemmed from me, but I didn't understand that at the time. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't do anything. She's doing this. And he's like, dude, that entire thought is your whole fucking problem. Right.
That's a good coach.
Yeah, no, he really knows his stuff. But what was also nice, also what makes a good coach, I think, and what was nice is just the way he explained it. I'm a logical guy. And so it was always very hard for me to grasp things if they felt very kind of like woo woo, or like, I don't really understand what you're saying, but he just explained it. He's like, look, dude, like, think about it. If you plan ahead of time how you're going to react in certain situations, when those situations come up and you have that thought, it gives you the opportunity to act differently, which then will be more in touch with your higher self. And really, to be frank, as I've gotten better, I don't know if I always feel much different, but I react differently. And when I notice that, that's where I just feel, I guess like that's how I feel proud of myself, because I'll notice it after. Like yesterday I had a opportunity I was mad at one of my employees, and they went MIA, and like I couldn't get a hold of them and all this stuff. And they sent me a message right before bed, and I was still pissed. And I usually would respond right then, but instead I waited until the morning because I just knew what was going to happen. And I sent a good message. And it was like later today where I was just like, dude, that was like the first time in a while, like you've handled that correctly, right? And that's how things start to change, at least from what I've learned. So I'm still learning, but that's what gets me very interested in this subject. And, it's always hard for me to explain to the audience, I think. I've tried, but it's almost one of those things where you kind of have to do it, I feel like, till you're going to understand, because it sounds too simple. I think if I was listening to me now a couple of years ago, I'd just be like, dude, I don't know.
Which also means that maybe 2 years ago you weren't ready for the message.
Oh, I don't think so, yeah.
Right?
I don't think
and by
so.
the way, if you would have intervened me one day before the day of my intervention, I would have told you to go fuck yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something that happens. There's enough pain. There's enough openness. There's enough willingness where you're like, something's got to change, and I'm willing to try. I may not believe it. It may sound woo-woo to me, all that crap, but I'm willing to try. And look what happened for you. You were just willing to try. Even last night, we call it pause when agitated, or with you and the ex-girl, or, you know what I mean? She's pissing me right. We call that the spiritual axiom. You know what I mean? If you spot it, you got it. That guy's a dick, you're a dick. Do you know what I mean? She's being this way, there's something in you that's spotting it, right? Because if you didn't understand what it was and you didn't behave like that, why would hell would it bother you?
Yeah, it was very eye-opening to see that I was creating a lot of my issues.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of the thoughts that I would have. And what was more interesting is just not realizing all these thoughts I was having subconsciously, right? Like for example, just it's the reaction, and that's what I consider the subconscious is your reactions. And over time, if you've had bad things happen to you, you grow up, you see other people, those kind of program your subconscious mind, and so you're kind of trying to unprogram it and put those proper thoughts or the good thoughts in that you want. And that just it fascinated me when I kind of figured that out because I just felt it was too fucking simple.
There you go. And the beauty is that it happens in an instant.
Yeah.
Right? It is not a long, tedious, drawn out it is not joining the Navy SEALs. Your emotions, your beliefs, your nervous system are shifted like that. And then we're like, why is it so easy? And why does it have to be so hard?
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't you punishing yourself enough? Why does this have to be hard?
Yeah.
There's enough hard shit out there. You and I know.
Yeah.
There's enough.
Yeah.
Why does this have to be hard?
Yeah. Like to take it a step further, I started realizing certain things I would say, like, for example, I still say this sometimes. I'll say, you got to work really hard to make a lot of money. And I think there's some truth in that, right? But going back to what I was learning is he's like, you're just kind of creating that shit. He's like, it doesn't have to be hard to make a lot of money, right? And I was like, well, I mean, you should work hard. He's like, but it doesn't have to be hard.
Right.
And it's just, I started just realizing like it just felt like this cheat code where you have all this control over your life, but most people will never like understand it or get it because it's too simple.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard to describe, at least for me, until you've been through. But anyways.
But I had to do that same one.
Yeah.
I had to shift. You have to work really hard to make money. I had to shift that, Tanner, to you just got to keep your eye on the ball. That shift over time
Right, exactly.
was great for me because, all right, to be successful, I just have to keep my eye on the ball. But before, look at us with the bodybuilding background. I thought it was grind. And that became a belief.
Yeah.
I mean, a true belief.
It's been interesting to see how you can change stuff. And it's really that perspective, right? So you could change something from why do all these bad things happen to me as, wow, this is going to be a great opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And it's hard in the beginning. I think that's the thing that was hard is when you're trying to change something you've been thinking for the last 30 years or 40 years, however old you are, right? It's how when you've been thinking a certain way that long, it might take a couple months to get that out of your system.
Very sweet. It's hard. It fucking sucks. It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
It's painful. It's heartbreaking. It's, you know what I mean? Like, because this is part of your identity. This is who you are.
Yeah.
That's why I'm giving you the credit for being open. Do you know what I mean? Like, trust me, there was a voice in there. I'm not saying how loud it was. It may have not been very loud, but there was a voice in there after you paid that guy, which was like, what the fuck does he know? Right? I don't know how loud it was. But to be able to still override that and go, all right, I'm willing to try.
It was just desperation, honestly.
Fine.
I know. It's funny because you get to a point where you're just like, well, fuck it. Like nothing else has worked. I mean, what the hell? I have nothing to lose.
It sounds like him and I work very similar.
I think so. So his name's Steve Hardison. I don't know if you've heard of him, but I
think I met him.
Yeah, he's in Arizona. He makes you fly out there. You have to sit in his office. He won't go anywhere else. And it's kind of cool because I kind of take that back to the creation. It's like he created the life he wanted, right? Yeah. And so he was like, I want to be able to stay at home with my wife and this and that. And so
if I remember him right, he's a man of faith though too.
He is, yeah, he is.
Yeah,
and he's a good guy. Right. And he taught me a lot of valuable lessons. And then I think they build too because you can have some different mentors, and when you see patterns, something that I'm good at is like I'll pick up on the patterns, and when I start seeing similar things, then I'm like, okay, there's got to be some truth in that.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when I'm seeing it multiple times. But yeah, he really helped me with that. And so something that I keep trying to do on a daily basis is I have that document of like all the things I'm trying to be, and I constantly say that. And I really do notice when I do say it that I handle things much better, and when I start missing, I handle things much worse.
Yep.
Because if you're not, I think what I've realized is if you're not telling yourself what to believe, then your beliefs become what you're hearing from others, right? And which is why I think they say you become the culmination of the 5 people you're around the most, because I'm assuming that's where all your subconscious thoughts start coming from, is these other people. So if their beliefs are rubbing off on you because you're not creating your own, that starts becoming your reality.
To share from my point of view, when I don't do this stuff, because I teach it doesn't mean I get to skip the work.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I don't do that stuff, it's not the voices around me, but it's the dis-ease comes back. That guy comes back. Happy Adam doesn't walk through the door. And I have to be very aware when that guy starts coming out, because I'm not the chosen one. I'm not the one that's going to walk on water. And if I don't stay on my game, I will drink again. Make no mistake. I will drink again. You know, child molesters rape children. You know what I mean? Alcoholics and addicts, we drink and drug. Yeah, I know what I am. So I have to be very careful with that damn fucking phone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, in the beginning, I thought, because it's great for us, because it's great to build your brand, and it's great to have access to people, and it's great to have Instagram and all these ways to inspire and influence and to attract people to what you and I are trying to do. But if I stay on that thing too long and I start comparing my life, or if I'm in a bad mood and I see somebody doing something that seems very attractive, that guy comes out.
Yeah, it's
Tanner, that guy comes out. That comparison, competitive. I need to win. I'm not doing enough. I need to work harder. So I have to do my readings too.
Yeah, it's super interesting to hear you say that. Outside of what we've been discussing, is there any key things that you would say are very important to breaking an addiction, whether it be habits or certain things someone's doing or activities or whatever? Like, is there anything that you feel are like keystones or like things people really have to do?
You know, some of the stuff I'll say, if you're only focusing on the addiction and not channeling that into where you want to go, like your coach, not channeling it into what you want to grow, how you want to be, how, you know, your declaration. A lot of the stuff I'm going to say is going to sound very 12-step, but one, you do have to admit it. You do have to be aware of it, and you do have to accept it. Two, you must surrender. Big difference between fighting it and surrendering. Big difference. You and I love to fight. Love to fight. I'll fight it. And it's gonna win. If it's women, if it's drugs, if it's alcohol, if it's money, if it's escapism, if you fight it, just not today. You're gonna wake up and it's gonna be there. You have to let go. You know what I mean? And when I say surrender, it's like surrendering to the winning team. So it's like you and I being traded from a shitty team to play with Michael on the Bulls. You know, we're going to go play for the winning team. I truly believe that when it comes to addiction, it is a spiritual sickness. It is spiritual. You know, the mind takes over, the obsession, the body has physical cravings, but your spirit is sick. And you need to find some form of spiritual solution. You can't outrun it. You can't David Goggins it. You can't out-train it. You can't out-cold plunge it. You can't red sauna it. You can't, every beautiful protocol that has been put out in the last 5 years for health and this and wellness, you can't take IVs for it. You can't take DMT for it. You can't toad it. You need to literally find a spiritual solution. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you really think about what that declaration was, dude, you were talking to your soul, your spirit. It wasn't really, it sounds like mindset, doesn't it? But not really. Your mindset's on fire. Your mindset's what built this. You were talking in a new language with a new mentor. You were reprogramming the values that probably your parents were trying to teach through the Bible. But you were using your languaging. So it made sense. But I guarantee you, if we read the declaration, I bet you we could take bits and pieces and find it in the New Testament. I guarantee it, right? Because I think your mindset was already actually perfect for this. He was talking to your soul, to your spirit. You know what I mean? I guarantee you I don't even think he wanted. I don't know. That was your private coaching. But I don't even think he wanted to know about your business. He wanted to know about you.
Oh, no, we didn't talk about it at all.
Right. So I don't think it was your mindset.
We didn't talk about it at all.
We talk mindset, but really it's a spirit set. It's a soul set. Yeah. That's what was happening. Your mindset's on fire. Your mindset's on fire.
Yeah.
Why did Michael and Kobe both end up going to the Catholic Church? Because of their mindset?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. We all want the Mamba mentality. You think they ended up going to find faith because of their mindset? No. Their soul set. You were working on your spirit. And these are some of the things I talk about right up front. If you think this is a mindset thing, good luck. Good luck. And I'll be here for you when you crash and burn for the next time. I wish it was just shifting my mindset. It's a total, I will say it's a shift of emotions, beliefs, behaviors, actions. But my mind, your mind and my mind is fine. We're on fire when we have to be. You know what I mean? My mind in that area is sick, and a sick mind is not going to heal a sick mind.
Who has made maybe the biggest impact on your life or had the largest influence?
Wow, thank you for asking. So I have a book coming out in January with my mentor.
Is this a new one or the
new one? New one.
Okay, because you already have one out.
Yeah. I have a new one coming out with my mentor. His name is Dion. I'll show you some of the stuff after.
Okay.
He's a rock and roll Hall of Famer.
Oh, no way.
He is the one that so you know all of his music, although if I said it, you probably wouldn't recall it. They're making a Broadway play about him. Paul Simon, Bishop Barron, Eric Clapton, Stevie Van Zandt, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan all contributed to our book. And the book is him mentoring me. The book is like Tuesdays at Morty's, and it's him passing down his knowledge. So if you were to say,
Tuesday at mornings is that's the relationship one, right?
So him teaching me, he's the one that took me under his wing, got me sober. So I would have to say the man that influenced my life the most was Dion. His name is Dion. And my parents did a great job, like yours. My parents did a great job, but they didn't know what they didn't know. And I needed the wisdom, the guidance, the tough love from somebody that I really respected and looked up to. So that's an easy question for me to answer.
Talk a little bit about your first book.
Sure.
And what's in it, and then talk about this next. Well, you just did it, I guess, a little bit on your second one. Talk a little bit about your first book.
Yeah, so I'm proud of that one. So that one was self-published. It has a whole story behind it of why I did that. I had a publisher, and my ex-wife at the time was very adamant about me not putting my story out, and it was a very difficult time between us. She gave me the blessing of recovery, and my recovery is what may have been the end of us as well. You know what I mean?
Really?
It's a long story. You know, she's a really good woman, a great mom, but you know, it was just, it was tough. We had 20 years together, no infidelity, no cheating on each other, just two people on different paths. Oh. And, but my first book did make New York Times bestseller. So, and it's called Lotsaholic, from a sick to sober Superman. Now I'm a Superman freak. I love, you know what I mean? But what it really is it's a memoir of my recovery from what it was like, and you literally go through my brain and the thoughts I was thinking, and being this businessman and running the #1 lace manufacturing company in the world, and having all the pressures of the world, and you know, needing a Xanax for this, needing an Ambien to sleep. And when I say I'm being very funny and cute, I mean, like, you know, popping Xanax. And I mean, I would take 3 Ambien to sleep, you know, drinking ephedrine in the morning so I could sweat it out the next morning and do cardio. Xanax after, because do you remember ephedrine? Like my chest would, right?
Bro, I couldn't handle it.
I ended up living on bodybuilding supplements. My body couldn't even break down food anymore. So it was lean body bars, and you know what I mean? And Oxycontin and Darvocet and Percocet, and dude, I was sick. So you go through that, you go through my intervention, you go through the 28 days, literally the 28 days of what it was like in rehab, because I wanted to put rehab in a bottle. Yeah. And then what it was like on the other side of recovery. And that's it. And it's called Lotsaholic because this maniac who passed away, he's a very famous rock star I was in rehab with. I'd rather not mention his name. We're at lunch one day it's called the family program. So we're the family members that are not alcoholics and addicts. And they're looking at me because I'm like healthy and I look good. And they're like, what the hell are you doing here? And then he's like, he's the worst of us. They're like, he's a lotsaholic. And we all like, what's a lotsaholic? He's like, everything he does a lot. Everything. If it's eating healthy, if it's the gym, if it's I have to wake up for prayer and meditation, I have to be there 5 minutes early, right? For me, it's the game of more, addition.
Yeah.
And I had to work on subtraction.
Yeah. I think that's one of the lines I like. I forget who mentions it, but they say it's not what successful people are doing that you're not, it's what they're not doing. And I thought that was very insightful.
Yeah.
Because it's just all the things they're taken away, right? To like make things easier for them to win and like have a better life. What are some of the key habits you use to stay healthy? I mean, you're in incredible shape. I don't know how old you are, won't ask, but you
48.
look amazing. Yeah,
Happy
bro.
to share.
You look incredible.
Happy to share.
Chiseled to the bone. So like, what are some of the habits that you use to just really stay healthy? I mean, because you look great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. One is I Tanner, I just don't want to ever be full of shit. That's the thing. Like I could give you my nutrition, right? But you and I both know every nutrition protocol works. If you and I decide together for 90 days, we're just going to be brothers, and we decide to go full healthy keto works. Yeah. If we decide to go full healthy vegan, and we're going to make sure we get our protein requirements, vegan works. If you and I decide we're going to do macros, you and I both know everything works, and we both know that every system works. If we decide, but we're going to be brothers, we're really going to do it. It's going to be Dorian Yates high intensity. No, we're going to do Arnold Schwarzenegger's double split 6 days in a row. But we both know all of them work. Every single one works. No bullshit. Yeah. We both know. One doesn't defeat the other. It's truly taking care of the soul and the spirit. That's number one. Because I've looked really fucking good before and really chiseled, but you can tell something was wrong. Something was wrong. However, I do take really good care of myself. I do eat as healthy and as clean as possible. I train every day, and that does not mean crushing every single workout like you and I are going to do the Mr. Olympia contest or we're going to do CrossFit. It just means I exercise every day. You know what I mean? I do some, listen, it doesn't have to be grounding. It doesn't, but I do make sure, like if it's sunny out, I'm going to put my face in the sun. I'm going to enjoy this life. And if it is time for us, like I have 2 kids. I didn't even get to mention them to you. You know, I have an 18-year-old daughter, Olivia, my 14-year-old son, Ozzy. I'll show you pictures of him. He's training now.
I love it.
But if it's time for me to have the piece of cake, I'm going to enjoy the cake. It's a game of removal. But you and I know, because we've been in the fitness thing, it truly is consistency. And pick the protocol that's right for you. Carnivore, you only like steak? Go for it. But don't be carnivore and then start adding, you know what I mean? That's where things start, you know, don't say I'm going to do this, and then you start thinking you'll tweak it. You know, that's where things go off the rails.
Yeah.
Find the system that works for you. Enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, it ain't going to work. You know?
Yeah, for me, I've always liked intermittent fasting, not because I think it's like special, but I view it as like I get to bank my calories for a night out. So if we go out and I want to eat a little bit more than I usually would, you know, have like second helpings on like mac and cheese, right? Like that to me has been a great way for me to stay leaner and still kind of enjoy a little more. I also just feel better when I eat less in general. Like I guess less meals. Like I don't do it all the time. Well, I guess I do. I guess I do it pretty regularly, but like I enjoy it.
I also like staying lighter earlier in the day. Do you?
Yeah, I do. So I don't think there's anything special behind it per se, but I've always enjoyed like bigger meals less frequently. And that's really the only way I've found to really do it. Because if I'm eating every single day, then when I do go out, I don't like going out unless I can indulge a little bit. Yeah. And maybe that's a mindset thing I need to work on, but I like to indulge. And so for me, I'd rather maybe fast the day before, and then the next day I might have like a light lunch, then I go to dinner. And then I kind of feel like I'm still at square zero, right?
Bro, so nobody's been arrested for driving and eating a double portion of mac and cheese, the mac and cheese and lobster. Drinking and driving, they'll arrest you. So like, dude, I believe in that. I believe in enjoying life. And I've learned what works for my body.
Right.
What works for my body. And that's part of the process that I do with my clients as well. You know what I mean? It's not that's why it's really not a one size fits all. It's really, really not.
What's a tool or practice that's helped you in your personal development journey?
I would have to say what you and I would call in you and I would say like it's all in. for me in personal development, it's that all-in mentality, or some people call it immersion, like an immersion experience. But like when I've gone to personal development, and some, some of the greatest have given me quotes that's going to be on my new site from Tony and Ben Newman, and
That's amazing.
yeah.
Man.
But what I did was I totally immersed myself and went all in on their teachings. I don't think it's a one size fits all again. But what's really helped me in personal development is if you decide, whoever you decide your teacher is in that, go all in. So if you're going to do a Tony thing, don't go to Tony and then start trying to psychoanalyze it and then go to Dr. Joe Dispenza real fast because you don't no, go all in, learn as much as you can, immerse yourself in the information. You did it with your declaration, the bullshit stories we tell ourselves. I think that's the key to all personal development, right there. Like, what bullshit story are you really believing, and how do you rewire that in the brain to get rid of it? God, personal development is I've learned more personal development from old school bodybuilding. These guys I used to look up to, Lee Labrada, Sean Ray, Michael Herner, they're like friends now. Do you know what I mean? Like something about fully dedicating yourself. That's what I think personal development really is. It's that idea of fully dedicating yourself to an idea, and then going all in on that idea and watching the outcome. And when you get that outcome you were looking for, you go, this shit works, right? Alcoholism addiction ain't like that, but personal development is. But yeah, I'd have to say, I have to double down on that. It's the immersion, it's the going all in, it's questioning your old beliefs. And then anything you can pick and choose that you feel like really fits with you, hold on to it for dear life. But please don't go from teacher to teacher to guru. Like learn the basics.
Probably my 3 favorite books and the ones that have been the most helpful for me. One is Self-Deception and Leadership by Arbinger Institute. One is Mastery of Love, forget the author. And then there's one called The Voice of Knowledge. And it's all about, it has the same premise, but what it does is it uses stories to get the points across. One of the books I really loved was Mastery of Love. And so it's obviously about relationships.
Yeah.
And one of the things I loved was it used dogs as an example. So it said, hey, if you go to pick up a dog and you like black dogs and there's a brown dog, you don't say you hate the brown dog. You're just like, I just prefer black dogs. And I thought that was a very interesting frame, is like, you don't hate, it's okay to like certain things. And if someone, like if you're the brown dog and someone doesn't like you, it's nothing personal. It's just, they just have a different preference. It used another one that I thought was interesting where it talks about people are usually doing stuff to get love. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, pretend you wake up every day and you could have any food you want. And then someone came to your door and said, hey, Tanner, I'll give you this pizza if you do these things. And you'd be like, well, I mean, no, that's stupid. But what was interesting is it was just talking about how a lot of people don't show themselves love, so they're looking for it. So when someone shows them a little bit, they start doing things that they otherwise wouldn't do. So like out of force and obligation. Anyways, those are a couple of the lessons. And I feel like those books really go down the rabbit hole of like becoming your best self, creating your own reality. Really, it helps you see how most problems are from you and not from other people, and they're just a mirror. Are there any books you've read that would be helpful for people? Because to be honest, I think the thing that really helped me was reading those types of books in conjunction with some coaching, so I could really see it, because I'm a very like visual, logical, analytical person. And so when I get stories and analogies, those really drive home points for me versus just like, well, Tanner, you just need to do this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But like those stories. So are there any books that people could read that maybe you've read that really could help drive home some of these points?
Boy, I have so many flooding into my brain. I almost want to pick up like my Audible and my
You
Kindle.
can,
Right? So some of them are going to be a little weird, but I'll just share with what's affected me. One is The Game of Life and How to Play It. I forgot the author's name, but it
sounds
uses,
interesting
yeah,
already,
but it's
the
everything
title.
it's everything you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
But she uses some biblical practices within it, and she's not religious, but she just wants to show you how all of that ties together, right? And it's a very short book, but it's The Game of Life and How to Play It, right? I would have to say, because I would love people to know how much it affected me, and if they feel like they have a problem, I still think the 164 pages of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, for anybody that's going through some
I didn't even know they had a
addictive-
book. Alcoholism Anonymous has a book.
And so if you replace the word alcohol with any, because it only talks about alcohol that much.
Right.
It's really not. It's about it's the behaviors, the symptoms, right, and the way out. It's the path out. I still think that book will stand the test of time. It will stand the test of time. Maybe because I'm 48. Probably because I'm 48. I do right now really love still going to the Old and New Testament and picking out some things, being like, man, this is why this thing has lasted this long. There's 7 Story Mountain, which is a story. I mean, this guy ends up being one of the most incredible monks. But one of the reasons I love the book is he's like you and me. You're hearing his inner thoughts the entire time, meaning like, what the hell am I doing? What is this nonsense? Like, why am I? And you find how he finds his path. Do you know what I mean? And what I loved about it was I don't want to keep saying that. I apologize. But I seem to keep thinking that these people that have found the way were born like that. They had this knowing. And every time I've studied somebody, it wasn't true. They had these doubts. They had these fears. They wanted something else. But they went on this journey. They went on this path, and they came out the other side. You know, even The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, amazing book. Mm-hmm. It's long as hell, but I could just go on and on and on. You know, I love the book that you mentioned with love. I think anything that centers about love is
that was probably one of the most helpful books I've ever read. In particular, you know, if you're struggling with relationships, well, it could be romantic or anything, but it really, I think the key thing that I loved was. It just talked about most people are doing things out of fear and obligation. They're doing it because they're afraid that they're going to lose the person or that person won't like them anymore, which is the wrong reason. Like the point of love, at least in the book, of what I took from it was you're living life the way you think you should live it, and you find someone else who's on that same path, and you come together, and that's what makes it this like amazing feeling. Versus what most people do, it's like, all right, well, like you need to do this. And it's like, well, you need to do this. And then it becomes this kind of like obligation and fear. And like, what I've learned about myself is whenever you're doing stuff for someone else and it's not you, it doesn't last because it's not really what you want. And so you're going to get resentful, and then you're going to do something stupid or something you're going to regret, and you're not going to have the conversation because if you do, you know, like it was just a super helpful book, and it used all these analogies with dogs to break it down. Right. It was like another one. It was just so simple, but it was like you come home and your dog wants to play and you're in a bad mood and your dog looks at you for a bit and then it goes back and just keeps being a dog. But with humans, we take that as like, well, why doesn't he want to play with me? What did I do wrong? And it just used these analogies like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Cause that's
so good, dude.
Yeah. It was,
good.
And it's a short book. I think I read it in 2 hours. And it's like top 3 for sure. And the interesting thing is my favorite books are not really about business or like making more money or whatever. It's like how to be. And like, that's what makes everything change. I
agree with you.
You told me this a few years ago, I would have laughed.
No, because look, maybe there's also a part that it's really healthy for you to know that you've mastered that art. You know how to create and make wealth. And if we took it all away, you know how to make it right back, right? So you've mastered it, and you're like, that you got that part, you got your mid-range down, you got your now you're working on a different part of your game. You know what I mean? I think that's growth, bro. That's beautiful. You know what I mean? I mean, how much more can people teach you of business? You're going to continue leveling up, and you'll learn from them directly.
Yeah.
But how much more?
It's interesting you said that because most of the game, it felt like at the higher levels, it's more about the personal development than it is. Like we're not talking about business very much because it's like, you know, the emails, landing pages, like we know all that stuff. So it's really more about personally developing into the type of person you need to be to attract the type of talent that'll help grow the business. That's what it feels like more to me at the higher levels. Because people want to follow, like you got to become the person people want to follow.
100%.
So
you want to be the person that you want to follow.
Yeah, right. Which is tough at sometimes because you're like, I don't know if I want to do that shit. You got to get to that place.
But it's healthy.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
Yeah. Love like your demeanor in general. I meet a lot of people. I don't see people this happy this often, except maybe my mom. My mom is one of those people. And it's something I love about her, and I really respect and admire that in you. For anyone who's trying to find out more information about you or get help from you, like what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Can I just add one caveat for your mom and me?
Sure.
Okay. I want you to know, bro, what you're seeing is joy. Like, I'm having a good time right now. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I appreciate
I
that.
used to find happiness in a drink, in a drug, in the new wife, in the new baby, in the new car. Happiness is fleeting, dude. Yeah. Dog, happiness, like, I need more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, happiness, I could get happy real fast. Give me a 8-ball Coke, I'll get happy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Happiness is fleeting. You know what I mean? How many cars have you and I bought, and then 2 days later it's like, it becomes your car. It's your car. Yeah, it's just your car. That's, you know what I mean? But what you're seeing is joy.
Yeah, well, I love it. I mean, and it looks good on you, and it definitely is something that when I see, that's more the direction I want to keep going. Yeah. So you're doing a good job.
Because I chased happiness, man. I chased happiness. A lot of cocktails chasing that happiness. A lot of skirts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of pills. A lot of foreign substances.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If anybody wants to reach me, dude, I made it because I'm old. Yeah, I mean, it's I made it simple. I mean, it's Adam Jablin everywhere. You know, we're redoing the website because we're transferring everything to go high level and, you know, all that whole game. But it's Adam Jablin on Instagram and all the socials and yeah, that's where you can find me, and me and my team will get back to you within 24 hours. Always within 24 hours, because some of the people that need me, it's a lifeline.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. I had a good time.
Thanks, man.